Hi champions, my name's Coach Michael. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about gymnastics, conditioning, and flexibility. The main thing I wanted to focus on today is cartwheels. I know that cartwheels are something that can be really challenging for a lot of our students, and they're something that are going to be present from your very beginning stages of gymnastics all the way up to your more advanced stages of gymnastics. Now, while cartwheels are considered a basic skill in gymnastics, they're a lot more complex than that. Cartwheels are going to be the first time that you have to learn how to transfer your weight from your feet to your hands and then back to your feet again without returning to exactly the same position. Where like a seesaw kick is going to start and finish exactly the same, where a cartwheel is going to actually change at the end. So we're going to talk about a lot of how that works, important things on our cartwheels, how to build up to it, and ways that you can do that at home when you don't have all the mats and stuff that we have at the gym. After that, we're going to get warmed up and we're going to do a workout to help get us some of the muscles that we want to have to build on those cartwheels. So, some important things for beginners. The beginning of a cartwheel, we're going to start with the seesaw kick. The reason this is important is because if you can't get your feet above your head and all the way upside down on your hands by itself, a cartwheel is like the next progression. It's kind of like learning to walk before you run, so it's going to be very hard for you to make that next step if you can't get all the way upside down. We want to make sure that we get comfortable on our hands before we really start focusing on going higher on our seesaw kicks and our handstands, because the difference between being on your feet and your hands is if you kick up too hard for a seesaw or a cartwheel, you're going to fall over and crash. If you're practicing these at home, make sure you're doing it somewhere soft and somewhere where you don't have any obstacles in your way. My apartment, the furniture would be in the way. That's why I came outside for this live today. So, ways you can get comfortable on your hands. The more ways we can get on our hands, the better. I really like to do push-up positions, inchworms, mini handstands where either my feet are on a wall or they're on a surface where I'm in a pike position and I'm all the way upside down on my hands. But so just some simple things we can do. An inchworm is where you start on your hands and your feet. We can walk out to our hands and we get used to bearing most of our weight on our hands, which is what's going to happen when we get in our cartwheels. So these are nice and easy. You get used to pressing your fingertips into the ground, just like you would your toes when you're walking. If you can elevate your feet higher than the ground, that's going to put more weight on your hands and make that a little bit more challenging. When we start doing seesaw kicks, it's important to start small and build our way up. Like I said, if you kick too hard, you're going to fall down. The ground isn't very soft when you're not on a gymnastics mat, so we want to avoid falling as much as possible. Also, when you are a younger athlete, that fear of falling can make it really challenging for you to fully commit to the skill. So, I'm going to show you what a seesaw kick is going to look like as a goal, and then we're going to work on building up to it. So, I have a hula hoop today because I think that that's something a lot of people may have at home that you can use very simply to help build on positions, and it'll help with your handstands and cartwheels as well. Now, in gymnastics, we have a dominant foot. It doesn't have to be the same as your dominant hand. I write with my right hand. My right foot is my dominant foot, but it doesn't have to be that way. The reason that's important is because we want to make sure that our handstands, our seesaw kicks, and our cartwheels all happen on the same side. I'm going to start with my dominant foot in front. My left leg is going to go in the back, and my arms are going to be by my ears. Okay, this is called a lunge. We like to have our shoulders over our front knee. Our front knee is slightly bent, and our back leg is all the way straight. All right, this is going to be the starting and finishing position in our seesaw. From here, we're going to reach down to the ground, kick up tall, and return to our starting position. Now, I know that looks easy, but it can be really tricky when we're starting. So some ways that we can practice making this a little bit stronger is starting with just a lever. So arms up, we're going to stand up onto one leg, reach our hands down to the ground, and then stand back up tall. All right? A lot of the time, I'll scoot back so you can see a little better. A lot of the time when we have athletes go upside down, it's hard for them to tell if their back leg is bent. So I like to tell them to keep their leg nice and long, or make their leg strong, and that's going to help keep that leg a little bit straighter. We always emphasize returning to the same starting position when we are doing seesaws and handstands. Once they can do that, I'll have them start with arms up, hands go down to the ground, and we'll do a little hop. Okay, this puts them in a small position where they have a fair amount of control without much risk of falling over. As this gets more comfortable, and they're not worried about falling down, we'll start from our full lunge, arms all the way up, seesaw down, and little hop. And we'll gradually build our way up. It's important that when your feet leave the ground, we push through our tippy toes to try to make our legs all the way straight. Because when you point your toes, it's going to make you squeeze your knees a little bit tighter. Once you're getting more comfortable with your seesaws, you're not having a lot of problems with falling over and your legs are straight, that's when we're going to start building up towards the handstand. The other reason that these are important is because a cartwheel passes through a handstand in the middle of it. So I'll show you one real quick. As you can see, when I'm upside down, even though my legs are in a straddle, I'm going to be straight up and down when I'm doing my cartwheel. And that's going to be our goal. All right, so after we've progressed a little bit with the seesaw, I'll have my, I don't usually call it a handstand in the beginning. I'm going to tell them to do a seesaw and tap their feet together at the top. When you call it something new, a lot of the time students and athletes will throw away what they know because they're afraid of some new thing that they haven't done before. So I'll start like a normal seesaw, pick up, tap my toes, and then return to the beginning. Now, the reason that I like to use the hula hoop is it forces you to put your feet and your hands in a certain place. So if I start with my dominant foot in the hula hoop, my non-dominant foot, or my other foot, is going to have to stay in the back, and my hands have to reach all the way to the other side. If you scrunch everything up very close, it's going to be much harder to kick up into your seesaw, your handstand, your cartwheel, and you won't have as much power. So we want to make sure that our tumbling is long and it's strong. So we start in a strong position with our feet apart. We want that big stretch to tap the toes at the top. All right, so that's just a little beginner start on how we build up into seesaws. Like I said, I really like the hula hoop because it's something that a lot of people have at home that gives kids a very visual, this is where my feet go, this is where my hands go, when you don't have nice colored mats to use like we do at the gym. Now, it also works for cartwheels. So what I like to do when I do cartwheels is I have my athletes start in a lunge behind the hula hoop. We still start front knee bent, arms up, but this time my hands are going to go inside the hula hoop. And my feet have to make it all the way to the other side. So they're not allowed to touch the hula hoop on the inside or the actual hula hoop. And we want to make it all the way to the other side. Now, cartwheels don't start that tall. At your beginning levels, cartwheels may be hands in the hoop and hop your feet over. As they get more comfortable, we're starting in a lunge, our hands go down, and it's still a little bit of a hop. But we're going to gradually work on building our comfort level up to get that higher and higher. You'll notice a lot of the time when we're starting, we get upside down, and an athlete may have their knees bent. They may be all the way upside down, but we still have bent knees, and that is because it's very disorienting to be upside down. If you're not trained to keep your legs tight in that position, it's going to be very hard to remember and to notice that your legs aren't straight when they're upside down. So in that case, what I like to do is I have my athletes sit in a straddle. I tell them to point their toes, squish their knees down into the floor. I'll even put my fingers right under their kneecaps and tell them to squish my hand into the floor, and I'll tell them to hold it until their legs get tired and the muscles start to burn. Once they feel that, I'll say that's what straight legs feels like, and that's what we want to feel when we're upside down. Sometimes it fixes it right away, sometimes it still takes a little bit longer, but I think that this is a really good way to get them to understand what we're looking for. So, when it comes to building up our cartwheels, like I said, we want our tumbling to be long and strong. So giving them markers, I want you to stretch to this distance. Now in the gym, we use a panel mat. It's rainbow, it has 5 panels and each one is a different color. If I'm at home and I don't have that, I might use a shoe or a water bottle or something that I can use to say, I want it to go this long, that way they have a goal that they can see. Visualizing is a lot harder when you're learning. And so if you give them something that they can actually latch onto that is visible and easy for them to understand, it's going to make it a lot easier. The other thing that I really like to do when it comes to building height on cartwheels is when we're at champions, I'll stack up foam blocks. And we'll start with 1 block. And if that one, they can go over that one without knocking it down, we'll do 2 blocks, and then 3 blocks, and then 4 blocks. I'm trying to brainstorm on some things that might work for this that are a little bit softer at home. The only one that I've thought of so far, which isn't exactly a great one, would be either paper towels or toilet paper. And the only reason I say it's not a great one is because we have other purposes that we use that for. But if you can find something at home that you can gradually stack up a little bit at a time, where if they do knock into it, it's not going to hurt, it's not going to scare them, and it's very easy to stack back up, that's going to be your biggest motivator for the kids to get their legs higher and higher, because they can see, oh, my feet just have to go a little bit taller over this tower that you made. Now we're going to take a step back a little bit to talk about head position and then what we do with our eyes and what we look at when we're doing these skills. So when I do my cartwheel, handstand, seesaw, we want our head neutral. And what that means is our head isn't going to be back, it's not going to be down, it's going to stay right in the middle just like normal. I tell my athletes to cover their ears with their arms, and I don't want to see their ears on the way up or the way down. So from here, we're covering those ears, we're standing up tall, and we're making sure that our arms squeeze by our ears the whole time. Now, with our eyes, we want to look at our hands as we're reaching for the ground. So I'm going to look where I want my hands to go, and then I'm going to keep looking there as my hands place onto the ground. Now, it's important to understand that there's a difference between looking at with my hands with my eyes and sticking my head out and looking with my whole face. We don't want this one because this makes our back arch and it makes our shoulders not as strong. So we want to keep that head very still and look with our eyeballs to see our hands. It's important to start training this from the beginning because it's going to get a little bit more challenging when we do the cartwheel. So when I do my cartwheel, like I said, we start behind the hula hoop, hands are going to go in the middle, feet are going to land on the other side. As I go into my cartwheel, I'm going to look straight ahead at where I want to go, okay? If I look sideways and I look over here, that's where my hands are going to go, and I don't want my hands to go crooked because that's going to make me go off the side. Arms are going to start up. As I reach down, like I said, we look forwards. When our hands touch the ground, we're now going to look under our armpit for where our feet are going to be. So since I have my right foot in front, when I get upside down, I'm going to look under my left armpit. And as you can see, even though it's a little quick, I'm going to look right towards the camera or right towards the phone because that's where I'm headed. And it's much easier to put your feet down on the ground if you know where you're going. So we're looking forwards, hands go down, and then we're looking here as we stand up. That's going to keep your head nice and neutral. It's going to give your back a very straight shape when we're doing these cartwheels, and it's going to make them very pretty, which is our goal. Once you feel like you have mastered your cartwheel, we can start practicing one on the opposite side. This is a lot trickier just because it's a new movement. Even though you know how to do it on one side, it's completely opposite on the other one. We'll build up the same way, starting with your seesaws, building up to that cartwheel, and we can use the hula hoop the same way where we have our opposite leg in front, arms are up tall, big cartwheel, whoop. And as you can see, that one is a little bit more wiggly than my dominant side just because it doesn't have as much practice. I know it seems very tedious to try to land in a lunge every time, but it's going to reinforce good habits, and that's just going to make you stronger and make your tumbling progress a little bit quicker and your gymnastics progress a little bit quicker, since this skill is important in both of those events. So after cartwheel, I just want to talk about a few little things that you can do that are kind of another step past that to keep building on your skills. One of those is a cartwheel step-in. And a cartwheel step-in is one of our building blocks we use to teach a round-off. Round-offs are important for, they can be used on vault, they can be used on beam, they can be used on tumbling, but I'd say the biggest use is going to be going into round-up back handsprings and for more advanced tumbling passes. So a cartwheel step-in is going to be kind of tricky to show on here, but we're going to land with one foot, just like normal, and then instead of stepping back into a lunge at the end of our cartwheel, we're going to step our second foot right down next to the first one. So we'll go cartwheel nice and slow. We land on one foot, whoop, and then we're going to stand up tall next to the other one. I'm going to do that one more time. Arms up, cartwheel, and you'll land nice and tall. Once you get more comfortable with that, when you land, instead of landing straight up and down, we're gonna wanna make our body a little bit more of a round shape with arms by our ears. This is called a hollow. And the reason that's important is because when we land in a hollow and we're nice and round in our round off, it pushes us back faster into our back handsprings. So I'm gonna do one more, just coming from this way, that way you can see it from a little bit different angle. We go cartwheel, we land one foot, whoop, other foot, and then we're nice and round at the end. So these are some things that you can do at home. Some of you might have panel mats or something that they can use that is soft, not too soft, hard enough to put your hands on, but soft enough that if you fall on it, it's not going to hurt. These make cartwheels a little bit easier. We talked about stacking things up taller to kick your legs over. At my apartment, what I would use is probably couch cushions. Don't do that if your parents aren't okay with it, so make sure you ask and use something that they're okay with you using, because we don't want to tear any of our nice things up. So now what I want to do is I want to get us nice and warmed up. We're going to do a workout, and this workout is going to be important for strengthening our muscles, because the stronger we are, the easier it's going to be to maintain body tension when we're upside down. If you think about it, when you cook a noodle, after you boil a noodle, it's going to be all wiggly, and it's very hard to make it do anything. It's lost its rigid shape. We want to make sure that we're straight and tight and everything is stiff when we're doing our gymnastics. That way we are in control of our body, and we can make it do the things that we're asking it to do. So we've got a few things we're going to do for warm-up, and then we're going to do a little workout. I'm going to explain the workout first. Actually, no. We'll do the warm-up really quick. So first thing I want you to do, and I want you guys to do this with me, is we're going to go 20 jumping jacks. When we do our jumping jacks, we're going to start with arms down, feet together. We jump, arms come up to your ears, legs come apart, and then you'll finish all the way back down. And we're going to start with 20. After that, we're doing high knees. So when you do these, the goal is going to be to alternate your arms and your legs. This is kind of tricky, so if that is a little too advanced right now, just worry about getting your knees up high, and we're going to do 20 on each side. All right, if you need water, don't be afraid to grab some. It's important to make sure we stay hydrated when we are doing our activities. After that, we're doing mountain climbers. When we do mountain climbers, you start in a push-up position. You're going to bring your knees up one at a time. We want to try to keep our bottom down and not make a mountaintop with our bum when we're doing these. All right? And our last one we're going to do is those inchworms that we were practicing earlier. All right, so remember, we start in a pike, hands by your toes. We want to keep our arms and our legs all the way straight. We walk our hands out, all the way down, and then you're going to walk your feet back up tall. Now, since I only have a yoga mat, I'm going to just walk back and do another one, but you can do these one after the other without stopping. Walk your hands down, all the way out, and then walk your feet back up with nice straight legs. If you can't make it all the way into a pike without bending your knees, stop where your legs stay straight and go from there. All right? We're gonna do that one more time, and then we'll get started with the workout. So, 20 jumping jacks, and then we'll get through the rest of these so we can get to our workout. Next is 20 high knees. Remember, if you can, try to alternate your arms with your legs. After that, we're doing our mountain climbers. Start in your push-up position. Bring those knees up and switch. last one, let's go 5 inchworms, starting in our pike. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of stuff for our legs today. We're gonna do a little bit of stuff for our arms and our core. We'll go through the legs part first, I'll explain it, and then we'll get to it, all right? So, we have 4 different exercises. We're going to do squats. Squats will look like this. Feet are at or slightly wider than your hips. Toes can be a little turned out. When you squat down, our chest stays up tall. We want our bottom to sit back as if we were gonna sit down into a chair. So, from another angle, hips sit back. We wanna avoid squatting down like this because that's going to put a lot of strain on the knees. The next one's going to be a sprint. Sprint means to run as fast as you can. If you have a place you can do this in your backyard, do that. If not, you can run in place. I'm going to use this field because that's what I have for today. After that, you're going to do calf raises. The best way to do calf raises is to balance on a wall. I don't have one, but you guys might. Push up tall on your tippy toes, lower back down. When I do them, I like to make sure that my heels stay together, that way my ankles don't roll out to the sides. And the last one's going to be sit-ups, which are your normal sit-ups. You'll lay on your back, hands flat on the ground, feet flat on the ground. Sit up as tall as you can. All right, so we're gonna start with 25 squats, and I want you guys to do them with me. Remember, feet a little wider than your hips, and let's get started. All right, after that, we're gonna do our sprint. So I'm gonna run down to the end of the field as fast as I can, and I'm gonna jog on the way back. Nice, easy jog on the way back. After that, we have our calf raises. So remember, nice and tall. We can go either hands on wall, hands on our hips, up and down. We're gonna do 15 calf raises. Try to keep those heels together on the way up and the way down. The taller you can push up on your tippy toes, the better. But like I said, make sure the ankles don't roll out to the side. And the last one, sit-ups, and we're gonna do 15 sit-ups. Let's see how much time we have left. We only have a few minutes. I was gonna do 2 sets of this and 2 sets of the other part, but I wanna talk about the other part just so you guys have some more things that you can do at home. Remember that to make this easier or more challenging, you can always increase or decrease the number of each exercise that you do or how many times you repeat the exercise. So the next part we're gonna talk about, we've got push-ups. On our push-ups, we want our hands right under our shoulders. Feet can be either flat on the ground or on your knees if that makes it a little easier. We want our body to stay straight on the way down and the way back up, okay? We have push-ups, we have inchworms, which we've already talked about. Push-up position, shoulder taps. Start here, feet a little apart this time. And we're gonna try to stay balanced as we touch our hands to each shoulder. And the last one will be a Superman hold. You'll lay on your belly, arms by your ears, lift up, and we're gonna hold. So let's go ahead, we'll start with 10 push-ups. Like I said, these can be done either on your feet or on your knees. After that, we got 5 inchworms starting from your pike. Walk your hands out, all the way to your push-up position, and then bring them back up. If you're doing this exercise without push-ups in your set, you could also do a push-up at the bottom to make it a little bit more challenging. And as I said in the beginning, all of this time that you're spinning on your hands, practicing moving, picking up your hand, shifting weight to the other side is going to help with your seesaws, your handstands, your cartwheels, walking on your hands, and all of those things that come later. Next is our shoulder taps. Remember, feet a little apart. We're going to touch from side to side. We want 10 on each side. We want our head neutral, looking right down at our hands and not sticking out like a turtle. And our last one's going to be our Superman hold, which we're going to do for 15 seconds. So go 1, 2, 3, up. Arms stay by your ears, nice and straight. Legs are straight and feet are together. All right. Like I said, I was planning to do 2 of each of these sets of things, but we kind of ran out of time. So I want to go ahead and get to stretching. It's really important to make sure that after you exercise, we stretch to make sure our muscles are nice and happy for the next day or for our next activity. So we'll go big straddle, arms up to your ears, legs are straight, toes are pointed. We're gonna reach over to one side. And let's reach up tall again, all the way to your ears, and over to the other side. Make sure as you hold the stretch for longer, we don't start to let our knees pick up off the ground. We keep them flat by the ground. Arms up and reach to the middle. It's important to keep our knees pointed up to the ceiling and not let our big toes roll towards the ground in front, or your knees roll forwards on this part. And now onto our pike. So pike, we want straight legs, knees tight, toes pointed. Sit up as tall as you can, and then stretch a little taller, and we're gonna try to fold in, half reaching for our toes. It's important that you only reach as far as you can with straight legs. If that is only to here, that's perfect. As you get more used to stretching, you will work your hands out a little bit farther. Now we're gonna flex our feet, do the same thing. This one will stretch a little bit stronger, so you probably won't reach quite as far on this one. Good. All right, last one we're gonna do for today is a seal stretch. We're gonna start fingers to the front. Feet are together, heels are pinching together. We're gonna let our belly button come down to the ground. Push up tall through your shoulders, and then take a deep breath to stretch out our stomachs. All right, guys, once again, I'm Coach Michael. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to working with you guys again soon.